Hi, and welcome to Ministry Through Music. Now, in this video, I'm going to share the beginning of my musical journey. Two different things happened within a short period of time that really sparked my ability to be able to play by ear and also wanting to really get into playing the organ. The first thing happened at my cousin's house. We'd gone that Sunday morning to hear my grandfather preach, my dad's father. And so we went to my uncle's church, which normally we didn't go there. After the service, we came back to my uncle's house for a meal, and then after the meal, I went into the living room, and I thought, I'll start playing the piano softly and see if Pammy would come in. Now, Pammy, his daughter, had been taking piano lessons, and she was playing for the church. And from time to time, she had showed me the little duet, the knuckle song, we called it, which is... And she would play the left part, and the upper. I would play the upper part. Well, I wanted to play a little and see if she would come in so we could play the duet together. So I began doing, with my fingers playing very soft. And then all of a sudden, I began playing. I began playing that melody, and I realized it was Just As I Am. Well, as I was playing it, Pammy came in and she said, "That's Just As I Am. That's the hymn, one of the hymns we did at church this morning." I said, "I know, I just started playing it and it was all on the black keys, but I just started playing the melody." And she said, "Well, you're playing it by ear." And I said, "Yes." So it was really exciting for me because I knew she played by note and by ear. And so I'd really never had anyone take an interest before in showing me other than that. Well, move ahead a little bit. And we were visiting my Aunt Ruth, another one of my dad's siblings. She went to our church, and from time to time she'd have us out to the house for watermelon or a picnic when some of the family would come up from Southern Ohio. We were out there one day, and I happened to walk through the hallway and saw this little instrument in one of the bedrooms. So I went and I got her and I said, "Aunt Ruth, what is that?" And she said, "That's my chord organ, my Magnus chord organ. Would you like to play it?" And I said, "Oh, I'd love to play it." And she said, "Okay." So she turned it on and she pulled out the little book and showed me how to push the chord button to play like the C chord and then play by numbers. And you just follow along. There were notes, but it was playing by numbers. And I had a great time playing it. I played it for hours. I know that they said they couldn't hardly get me away from it. And so each time that I would go there, I was so enthused about playing the organ. I didn't want to talk to any of the kids. I didn't want to be with the other kids. I just wanted to go in that little room with the door shut and play the organ. Well, one Saturday I was out there, and she stood at the door and she said, "You're playing Silent Night very well. Would you like to play it at church?" I said, "Well, I really can't play it on the piano at church. We don't have an organ." And she said, "No, I'll take the chord organ." So we were having a special program for Christmas, and they carried the organ, put it in the car, and brought it out to the church, and I played my first solo in church, Silent Night, on her chord organ. And just a year ago, I was visiting back in Ohio, and my cousin Nancy actually found a copy of that original program. So I'll share that. And you can see that the program, and it shows me playing the organ solo there. That was the first time I played in church. And so a lot of this just kind of came around the same time period. I had music in school, but it was very rudimentary, and it wasn't a strict study. And I didn't know someone that would be able to teach piano lessons at the time. But God had another plan. He worked it out. When Christmas came around, my Aunt Ruth had talked to my mom's baby sister, Marie, who worked at G.C. Murphy Dime Store, and talked her into buying the little Magnus Jewel organ. And so Christmas morning, I opened my presents, and there it was, my own Magnus chord organ. It was only 2 octaves. It was small, but tabletop. But it was great because I could play it as much as I wanted, and believe me, I played it all the time. The only thing that kept going on in my mind is I can't play at church. And I wanted to be able to fill in when someone wasn't there, especially Wednesday nights. And I thought, boy, if I could just play good enough on the piano to play a few of the hymns for Wednesday night, that would be great. I'd love to do that. Well, it wasn't too long until my Aunt Marie talked about taking piano lessons years before that. And she said, "I have a book if you'd like to borrow it." So I borrowed her Michael Aaron Primer, brought it home, and just started playing through it, reading everything, playing through it and starting to understand how the notes were put on the staff. And I also noticed that some of the exercises would do certain things, and they would like a broken chord, like C, E, G. Well, I started realizing that if I played C, E, G together, it made the same sound as me hitting that C button, that chord button. And I thought, well, I don't need the chord buttons anymore. I was already learning to read music enough that I could find C on the piano. I could tell the black notes, the white notes, what the names were. I just wasn't quick at it. So I played my first Wednesday night not too long after that, and I played Sweet Hour of Prayer. In the summer, we visited my uncle who lived in Findlay, Ohio, and they were a larger Baptist church. So my aunt was so excited that I was starting to play that she took me up to see the organist after the morning service. And she asked him, can he play the organ? And he said, well, yeah, let him play something. So I played quietly, and he set everything up on it, and I played quietly, and he said, you're going to play tonight. Well, for the offering, you play a solo. So that Sunday night, I played my second really solo in church. I played Sweet Hour of Prayer on the organ. I was hooked. I knew that's what I wanted to do. I felt like that's what I was called to do. I didn't know how it was going to work. I didn't understand, I knew that there were pianists that played in churches, and I knew there were organists, but beyond that, I really didn't know. So after I began working with the piano at church, playing just a little bit, I was not involved in sports per se. I really didn't care for sports. But one thing that one of my cousins, Michael, was in, it was Cub Scouts. And I thought, well, that would be great. I looked at everything and thought, well, I'd like to do Cub Scouts. It's a group that I can meet one time a week with a group of other kids, and I knew that they would maybe go camping or do various things like that. I knew that you got these badges and you got to wear this uniform, and I liked that. And so I said to my Aunt Carrie, please, can I do it? Well, she said yes, and then my Aunt Callie and Uncle Jess, they put the money in to buy my uniform and had it custom fit me and all of that. So I was off to Cub Scouts that fall. I had just turned, I believe, 7 or 8, I can't remember. And we met in the basement of the Presbyterian Church. Now, the Presbyterian Church was located right across from the school. So I would just leave from school and go across to Cub Scout meetings. One night, they were all cleaning up, and I was nosing, how we are as kids, even adults. I was looking around in a back room, and there was an old upright piano. So I said, well, can I just stay and play on that? And they said, sure, you can just turn that light out, and, don't be too late because your mom will be concerned. And so I played the piano a little bit, and a couple weeks later, I remember staying after, and then it was still light enough. I went up the back steps into the organ loft, and there was a choir and organ loft, and I'll show you a picture of that. And I remember the organ was closed, and I saw those pipes, and I thought, well, I've never seen anything like that before, not in person. It was the first time I'd seen it, so I knew that there was an organ there, but that one night I heard music when I was playing the piano. I thought, someone's playing the organ. I'm going to sneak up the back steps and see who's doing it and see what they're doing. Well, I got up to the top step, just looking over, and the organist had stopped playing, and she turned around and she saw me. So she called me up and she says, come on over here. She says, do you play an instrument? And I explained that, I'd played the chord organ and played just a few hymns at church on the piano, but I didn't take lessons. And I said, but I've never done anything like this, played this. She says, well, would you like to play it? And I said, oh, I'd love to. So she set me down, and it was a 2 manual and pedals. And so she set it up to play just on the one keyboard, exactly like the organist did at my uncle's church. And so I played through Silent Night, which that's the reason why it's kind of interesting. This video is going to be during the Christmas season. I played Silent Night, and she said, well, you play nice. She said, you need to take some lessons, but she said, you have a nice touch. I didn't really know what she meant by that. All I knew is that I liked the notes to be connected. I didn't like it sounding choppy on, something like Silent Night. And I had formed my own way of doing chords, which later I would learn were different inversions of the chord, but I made it so that I had as few changes in fingering as possible when I did the chords so it sounded smooth. That was just the way I thought about it. Well, after she showed me how the organ was set up and everything, she said, you can come practice anytime you want. She said, if there's no one in here, I'll just let Reverend Johnson know, And if he comes in, he'll know you have my permission to play the organ. And I said, but I don't know how to play the pedals. She said, oh, it's easy. So within 15 minutes of meeting her, maybe 20, she had told me all about the organ, how to turn it on, how to turn it off, about how the basics of how it worked. And then she showed me how to play the pedals. You play a C chord, you play the C pedal. Play an F chord, you play the F pedal. And as I looked at it, I realized, oh, these are made the same way. And of course, this was an old organ. This was a 1900 or before 1900 tracker, so it was all mechanical. And she showed me how the couplers worked and all that. And she said, if you want, there's a book over there that's an old book of mine. I don't want to lose it because I have markings in it, but I don't use it normally. If you'd like to take it home and read about organs, you can. It was the Gleason organ method. So, of course, I took that home and I was so ecstatic. It's like, I've got to be able to go back and play that organ. So that started my love affair with the pipe organ. I still played the piano some at church, and I started playing a little bit more of the piano with, like my Aunt Marie started to sing sometimes, and I would find something and play that for her. Well, that was kind of the beginning to the pipe organ and the beginning of music, and I found that the more I worked with chords and playing the hymns and using different chords with my ear, I found that I could find unique ways of playing the hymns, not always in the key they were in the hymnal, but close enough that I was beginning to be able to play on Sunday nights. And I knew that I was supposed to do this. So that's kind of the beginning of the piano and the organ. I did start taking piano lessons. I was 9, I think, between 8 and 9, and my Aunt Carrie found a lady who taught me music. She taught me music theory, the scales, and I really started working hard at doing that. But she always insisted I still play by ear. She had listened to me play the hymn, and then she would say, okay, try this and try that. And that's kind of the way that it was for several years with her. I just kept, being in a children's choir at church. I'd play the piano for them sometimes. And then as the church grew, we eventually got an organ. Well, I'm going to leave you at that point right now, just filling you in, and then I'm going to let you hear a little bit of what it sounded like when I played Silent Night on the chord organ, and then taking it to playing it without playing the chord buttons. And you'll see a little bit of the progression of what I went through, and then eventually to the piano, and I'll play a little bit of Silent Night the way I would have played it back then. And anyway, I hope you enjoy it. It's special to me because it's Christmas and Silent Night is my favorite hymn, and it just made sense that all this would come together at this time. So thanks for joining me, and until next time, I'm going to keep ministering through music. So here's where it all began. This little instrument. The Christmas book that came with it. You can see it just is very simple. It has the 6 chord buttons, has the numbers with a plus to play the black key, just 2 octaves, but it brought me a lot of joy and it really got me started in music. You can see here's the book. Inside the very back, it's what shows you how to play the Magnus Jewel chord organ. So I'll turn it to Silent Night and play Silent Night through quickly, and then go on to the piano. And it does make a lot of noise because it does have a fan that actually blows across little reeds that create the tone.